friends. I'm Prairie Vintage. My name is Linda. I'm an energy intuitive reader here on YouTube. I use spirits, my intuition, the tarot to communicate energies to you guys. Most amazing, fantastic viewers. If you are new to this channel, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you finally found me and we are reunited. For those of you guys who are returning, I'm so grateful, so blessed to do your reading yet again today. You guys are all very safe and welcome in this space with me today. Today's reading will be a pick a card, which we'll pick shortly. But for those of you guys wanting to go straight away to that, you can go ahead. Although I do want to preface this reading with a description in regards to what exactly we'll be doing here. Okay. So I do suggest you listen to this, but if you are crunched for time, you can go ahead and select from any of the timestamps where we will be breaking down this whole video. So before I pick our options, our three picks, what is this reading about? This reading is in regards to you, your energy, and how you understand yourself versus your shadow self. Okay, so it's going to pull through sort of your experience of what you're currently sort of going through or understanding of self. And then it's going to pull through any of the shadow that might be getting in the way that you're not seeing with your subconscious. Okay, so we're not really consciously aware of our shadows. And so this might be very difficult for us to connect or resonate with our reading because we don't see our own shadow. So it might not sound like us. That's why it's important for us to know whether the part that sounds like how we recognize ourselves is what's resonating for us. Okay, so it's going to pull through as your current energetic state in regards to maybe a situation you're dealing with. Could be a relationship you're dealing with. Could be like a certain point in time in regards to what it is you're currently facing and how you're understanding and seeing yourself engaged in that. And then spirit will pull through with the shadow aspect of self that is getting in the way of you maybe smoothly navigating through your current circumstance. Okay, so it is difficult when we hear things about our shadow because it is, if we're not ready to look within our shadow, we can become very traumatized. It could be very shocking. Okay, and that's not what this reading is intending to do. This reading is intended to heal. And for those of you guys ready to creep within your shadows, release any energy there so that we can heal as a collective and move forward. Okay, so of course, use your own intuition. Okay, if you don't resonate with that pile, there's no need to stick around. Although sometimes, like I say, if we're not feeling good, we might just let the ego sort of run the show and dismiss whatever's being said. And so then there's really no healing when we justify our bad behaviors, okay? Because the ego is going to cover up as best it can. So let's make sure that spirit pulls through here as much as we can in regards to your current state or your understanding. That way, if it's not close, if it doesn't resonate, then that's not your reading. Okay, so no shame in going to another pile. Now, because energy is not fixed in a linear timeline, this might sound like a past version of you, maybe an unhealed version of you. If that's the case, you can go check out another pile. There could be a future version state of you. Okay, and if that's the case, sometimes that's hard to resonate with because it's out of our conscious awareness. We haven't reached that state of enlightenment or understanding. So it might not be the right time and you could just come back to this reading. Okay, although all my readings are timeless and I do feel if you've clicked on this, then it is the right time. Okay, and sometimes, most times, we get energy around us. And so if we have strong personalities around us, that's what pulls through. And it's the situation, the person, the relationship we're dealing with. And so it's giving us insights to how to deal with that person's shadow. But it's all in regards to helping us heal, move beyond obstacles and challenges. So I did want to clarify because I get a lot of comments in regards to, why do we always got to do shadow work? Why is it always about ourselves in regards to what the issue is or our own ascension, our own healing when, there's obviously other people we're engaged with. And the answer is fairly simple. People are going to do what they do. And they're going to act the way they act. And when we change our energy, those people are either going to act differently or just not be in our energy field. Okay, but if we continue to act the way we act, we're going to continue to draw in and engage in the same ways. So this is why it really is our responsibility. Now, this doesn't mean we're responsible if people behave poorly. This means we're responsible if we're engaged in difficult situations, because we're continuing to navigate through however we are, and we're pulling those situations in order to heal our shadow. So this is a school of life. The universe puts in front of you exactly what you need to see in order to close out traumas, pains, and heal certain shadow parts so that you can ascend. Okay. And the truth of the matter is, which is very ironic, you're perfect the way you are. There is no trauma. There is no shadowy parts of you. You are already whole and complete. But over time, we have experiences and we store away pockets of energy in our energy field that stay stuck. And so therefore, there's ways that we react when anything threatens that part of ourself. And so we start to respond in certain ways. And so we'll know if we have shadow or trauma because our emotions are pulled and we're very reactive and we feel lack, we feel separate, we feel disappointed, we feel maybe a need to chase, maybe a need to attain, maybe we avoid. Okay, so if we're not feeling completely at peace with ourselves, regardless of what's going on around us, then we have shadow that needs healing. Okay, now it doesn't need, but then you continue to suffer, and that's certainly up to you. Okay, so just being is good enough, but we need to be healed, or at least understand that we carry a veil. And our veil is our perception. And this is what's creating a lot of the suffering. And so once we realize that veil is an illusion, that none of that experience that has happened, although it has happened to us, is not impacting our essence. We are whole and complete, pure beings, okay, extensions of the divine, that none of what we've experienced has taken anything away from us. And once we realize this, we'll look back saying there was really nothing to put back together, nothing to, really heal within us, because we were already healed. But the irony is that in order to see this, there is shadow work that needs to be done. Okay, so if we are alone, if we're not around people in certain situations, if we run or block people out, we could dress that up as a safe boundary, healthy boundary. I don't deal with people like that. I don't go around this and that. And so we've never healed anything about us. All we're doing is protecting the ego from being flared up and triggered. And so this is why it's important to be around anything that comes through and observe ourselves. How do we respond? How do we engage? Are we triggered? Are we emotionally pulled? Does it just sit neutral, peaceful? This doesn't mean we have to go in any abusive situations or disrespectful relationships or any of that. But it does mean if we feel any way other than completely whole and peaceful and balanced in our own energy, regardless of who's around, who's coming or going, then we still have things to heal. And the ego doesn't like to hear that, because the ego wants to say it's perfectly fine. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine. I'm whole and complete. It's like, no, we have to really inner feel and understand that we are that. We have to believe this, not mentally, okay, but through and through with our essence. And so the ego is very sneaky, and it gets in there trying to convince us that we're right, that they're wrong, that it's perfect, that it's not challenged, that there's no trauma, that there's no shadow. And all of this is to cover the shadow. It's going to fight tooth and nail, survival. Okay, fight, or freeze. The ego really, really wants to protect itself because it doesn't want to be transmuted. And the shadow wants to remain in the shadow, calling all the shots from the subconscious. And so if we're acting out of subconscious, that's 97% of our actions are coming from this place. And so we might think we're aware, we might think we're being responsive, but really there's an underlying reason that we're acting and engaging the way we are. And so this is to provide us awareness as to where's this being driven from? Can we get in front of it? Can we observe it? Can we be honest with ourselves? Can we heal past that? Can we welcome any parts that have been shamed or tucked away that we haven't fully integrated or accepted about ourselves? And so this is the road to healing and shadow work. And some people get in the perpetual state of shadow work. And that too is unhealing, because that states that we're not quite complete and whole with the divine, that we have to keep improving ourselves, working on ourselves, healing ourselves. Okay, now, yes, there's lots of egos, but we get to the point where we are aware of our ego and we are aware of our triggers, and we do not let our thoughts sort of dictate our emotions. And so once we're there, we sort of turn the volume slowly off in regards to that pull in which the ego and the mind story used to have in the past. And over time, that volume gets completely turned off. But it's not a one and done. It's a slow turning of the sound of the mind story. Okay, but at first it's very strong. It pulls you. It pulls you so much it's an automatic, because it's been that way for a very, very long time, maybe many lifetimes. And so it's kind of like, an empty bucket and a full bucket. And so we need to take from one bucket, pour it in the other. And so at first, drip by drip, this bucket's very heavy and will most likely win. But over time, the empty bucket slowly starts to get filled when we transmute energy. And then the bucket that was full starts to become empty. There is no more to transmute here, because we've healed a lot of that pain and shadow. And then the weight on the new bucket is healed. And so the thoughts just sort of fall away. The thoughts keep coming. Okay, thoughts are automatic, but they don't have pull. And we know we're not our thoughts. We know we're not our experiences. And so we're able to manage our emotions and the thoughts that come and go like clouds. Okay, so this is why at first it's very difficult. So what we need is conviction, very strong at first. And this is why it's difficult, very strong. We need as much conviction and a desire to overcome ego, to get to the bottom of our pain and our suffering, so that we can free ourselves and be committed to taking a look at what's going on in the shadowy parts, not running from it, not making excuses, not blaming other people. Okay, if that's what we do, then we'll never uncover that shadowy part. And so just like an inner child, it needs to come out, it needs to be embraced, and we can't put a anticipation of a quick healing on that inner child. We have to be very loving, very compassionate, just like a child. It's going to sense if we're upset and we want it to hurry up and stop crying. So we have to let the shadow, the inner child, come out, and we have to let it take as long as it takes in order for that part of self to feel welcomed and fully integrated back into our energy body, until we transmute any of that into the light. Okay, so that is what we are looking at here. So with all that being said, let's pull the 3 cards for your pick. Actually, let's take a look at the decks before we do that. And like I said, if you guys want to go straight to the timestamp, you can do this. But let's take a look at the decks we'll be using. There's quite a bit of them. And the tarot, for clarification, we'll be using the Tarot of Oneness. And for the picks, we'll be using the Deck of Many, Animated Townsfolk. So let's pick our 3 options, beautiful people. So you'll be drawn to one of these cards. Let's do it this way. One of these cards. And listen to your intuition. If you're pulled to multiple piles, that's absolutely fine, or multiple cards. Spirit, for the collective who's tapped into this reading, can we pull 3 cards regarding the viewer versus their shadow self. Thank you so much, spirits. Option 1. Option 2. And option 3. Option 3, spirit. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have. Option 1. We'll look at the backside soon, okay? Because it's going to say what this archetype is. Option number 2. Option number 3. Okay, so let's take a look. If you already know which one you want, you can select from the timestamp. So option 1, we have the Ancient Wizard. Option number 2, we have the Healer. And option number 3, we have the Musician. I knew I had a music group here. All right, angels, sit with this energy. And whichever one, like I said, if there's multiple, there could be multiple. You could certainly pull through energy here of people that you're dealing with. Okay, like I said, so it's up to you to determine what energy it is that I'm tapped into. Sit with this energy, and I will put the timestamp below, and I will see what you pick. Hello, gorgeous angels. Pile number 1, you guys picked this Ancient Wizard. Wow, take a look at this card. So I do suggest you listen to the intro message because it's very important to understand what this reading's about, or else we could get highly, highly triggered. Okay, and this reading is not intended for triggering, it's intended for healing. Okay, and we need to know how to utilize certain information in order to heal. So I have pre-shuffled oracle cards. I've not looked at any of these, and I ask Spirit specifically, you versus you, but to your shadow self. So what this means is we're going to look at your understanding of how you're engaged or what it is that you're energetically experiencing versus how your shadow could be not being recognized by you and interfering, how your subconscious could be running the show right now regarding your current situation, relationship, circumstance. Okay, so if you don't resonate with the part that is conscious of you, then chances are this isn't your shadow. But this is all about understanding your own shadow self. Okay, and keep in mind, sometimes we're engaged with people that have strong shadows, and this could certainly be people you're dealing with. And so this provides us with insight when we understand other people's shadow, because we could see other people's shadow a lot more clearer than our own. So keep that in mind, okay? And like I always say, at first blush, we might ignore the fact that it is our own shadow because the ego wants to run away. So don't close off to the shadowy part, of course, unless you're not ready or prepared. Okay, so let's take a look. Pile number 1. Surrender worry. Make a commitment not to lead an anxiety-driven life. When worries arise, breathe them out of your body. Focus on the power of your heart and have faith that Spirit is guiding you always. So she's on a swing. I feel like it's already coming through. We'll see once I pull all the cards, but there is something about ups and downs, highs and lows regarding your energy. Okay, so the vision. 55. 55 is a master number. Change is the only constant. Divinely orchestrated change. So it could certainly be change. It makes us very anxious. Spider. This is a creator energy. So I get a lot of Scorpio energy from this spider. Okay. And we have jellyfish. And we have Sun and Pluto, the number 10. And we have realization with the number 37 or the number 10 again. So we have 10, 10. Could certainly be an angel number you've been seeing. Okay, 10 is all about completions, ends of cycles, transformation. And we have the fall. So we can also take signs, symbols, synchronicities literal. So the fall could certainly be a birthday here. I'm getting a lot of, like I said, Scorpio energy, fall time energy. I'm also seeing owls, which gives me Gemini, Libra, Aquarius energy as well. Okay. Doesn't have to be, we have more Pluto, which is Scorpio. Sun is Leo. Any of these signs could be relevant to you. So we have week. And we have Avenger, light attributes, desire to balance the scales of justice, righteousness on behalf of society or oneself. Shadow attributes, resorting to violence in the name of a cause. And we have King, light attributes, enlightened, benevolent leadership, benefiting those in your charge. Shadow attributes, excessive feelings of entitlement, rulership without restraint. Okay, and we have introjection with defense mechanism 31 or number 4. Artistic sublimation, identification, inclusion, absorption, incorporation, and internalization. The individualist emotional center between lack and abundance. So 4 could be Emperor energy, it's all about stability. We have 86 with integration, leader, trust your instincts. That's King energy. Inventiveness, courage, authority, embodiment, sharing, and exchanging. The observer, thinking center between interior and exterior. And we have mental tendency 63, or the number 9, stubbornness, determination, perseverance, obsession, willfulness, dodginess, relentlessness. Type 9, the peacemaker, instinctive center between forgetting and asserting oneself. Monkey, monkey, monkey. I don't know why I said that. It's giving me magician, Virgo, Gemini energy. A little bit of this ancient wizard pulling through with the little monkey. And we have seagull. 2 seagulls here. Okay, and we have size. Like, size. I don't know if you guys can see that. This lady looks like she's a little disappointed here. And it's not, but it looks like she's wearing 2 different colored socks. So that could be something. Maybe you wear 2 different colored socks. My daughter does that a lot. It's funny. I must have the 2 socks matching. I don't know why. That might be something with this obsession or this, like, thing. So we have the poet. That's number 7. Okay, 7 is all about faith, wisdom, reflection, understanding. 7's chariot energy, which is Cancer and integration of shadow. But the poet comes through here. So in line with this spider energy and this vision energy, this creator type energy. Okay, and then we have innovation. Wow. So we have the planet of Jupiter and the sign of Aquarius. Number 11 with innovation, okay? The Aquarius energy. And we have sublimation, 67. Sublimation. Okay, and we have the coyote, which is giving me monkey energy. The coyote can be found from Alaska to Costa Rica. Equipped with great adaptation skills, it is sometimes even found in large cities. The canine is identified by its pointy ears and black nose at the end of its snout. Its poor visual acuteness is compensated by a highly developed sense of hearing and smell vision. Poor visual acuteness. I didn't know that coyotes had poor visual acuteness. Okay. This energy is coming through really clear to me, but I'm going to sit here with this. You know what? It's time for a new one, Linda. What am I feeling for you guys? Sorry, we want clarity. No, yes. We want self-love, and we want some clarity. Okay, so 2 wants for me today. Let's start with getting clear. So you can skip ahead, and what I will do though is I'm being called to a couple of things, to read a couple of things here. One, I'm going to read the Sun and Pluto, because without fail, this one always likes to be clear. Number 10, and this is conjunct sextile trine primitive. You are a lord of darkness. Oh my goodness, you guys, lord of darkness, ancient wizard. Ooh. Okay, you bring people into your lair to manipulate, torture, and harm them without a glimmer of conscience. Adaptive, you are aware that your personal power rests not in manipulating others for selfish purposes, but in your ability to channel divine grace and wisdom. You forego self-centered will to empower and direct your potency towards service and gratitude. Evolving, understanding that you are here as a flicker, a temporary flame, you relinquish control. You surrender to being used by the divine to promote the transformation and well-being of others. In conjunct opposition square. Primitive, you are locked in the underworld, mirrored in the basest of emotions and feelings. Adaptive, you recognize that your ego is going through a death and see this as an opportunity to enlarge your sense of purpose and identity, to choose to no longer be identified with the past. Evolving, through your dark night of the soul, you are able to find the gems of awakening, the polished jewels of personal psychological growth. As you collect them, you bestow them upon others. This is pretty much your whole reading right here. And I don't know why we had to pick so many cards, Spirit, but we did. So I will channel this because I was going to read some, but I'm just going to read it all completely intuitive here because this message is very clear. Gorgeous angels, pile number 1. You guys are all at sort of different stages, okay? But I feel like you're going to have to know what scale you're at. I feel like there is a big ego here. We might not want to hear that we have a big ego, or we might know, okay? Because I feel like this type of a personality is really internalizing a lot of self, okay? And the fact that we internalize a lot of ourself is because we really are concerned with how other people might see us as weak. And we feel like we would be weak ourselves if we were able to be transparent about what we know, what we don't know, and our own truths. Okay, and when I say our own truths, it's like everybody has deficiencies. Everybody has areas of things they don't know. And so if we feel like we don't know about a lot of things, then we feel really not good. And so we'd rather just keep to ourselves. Okay, but I feel like there's a lot of keeping to self, but it's not in like a humble way of like, ooh, I'm just kind of like timid and scared and a little shy. No, this is I'm keeping to myself, but I'm also like looking at all these other people and like making my, like opinions and judgments and gauging people and situations and hoarding all this information of circumstances and then doing more like internalization and still sort of utilizing people and situations for my benefit without contributing to the collective. Okay, so there's so much coming through with that. One, that's not good for karma, just so you know, and whether you believe in karma or not, energy has a way of balancing out. So we can't be in an energy of take. Observe other people as they contribute, as they go vulnerable, as they start to be authentic and do what they need to do in order for the betterment of the collective, even for the betterment of you, and then be like, ooh, that's a shame. I'm going to take all that, though, whatever it is that you're giving energetically, and run with that, but still keep to myself. There's an energy here of keeping to self and then utilizing this in order to support or shadow, to support our inadequacies in a way that covers us up so other people cannot see it. There's a swinging here, and the swinging here is why we feel the way we feel, because this doesn't feel good. And I feel it's your predominant energy. And for some of you guys, it might be coming to the point where it's driving the show a lot. So you might be in a situation right now that isn't going well, or that is taking up a predominant part of your energy, and it's pulling on you. And so you feel like you have absolutely no control. Okay. And it's ups and downs, and it's really dictating your mood and your emotions and consuming your space, your headspace. It's doing this for a reason, because some of you guys, like I said, are at the point where you have to start to look at this, because you've tipped the scales towards being too hoardish of energy and too self-conscious of engaging. Okay. And this has created a shoving away in your shadow self, the truest part of yourself that wants to come out regardless if it knows or doesn't know, because it wants to be loved, it wants to be accepted, and it wants to be expressed. And so when we silence ourselves, whatever part of ourself it is, it goes angrily into the shadows. It feels rejected and unloved. Okay. And it sits there resentful, brewing. And the more it brews, it starts to react in situations like in a snappy-ish way, and in a way that is a little bit unjust in some way. And it thinks it's seeking justice for itself. Meanwhile, that situation itself wouldn't require such a defensive response, or such a judgmental response, or such a strong reaction. But it's because the subconscious is sitting there brewing, resentful of being silenced and not being seen over a period of time. And so I feel like there is this energy that you have of covering up that shadow part of self with a strong energy of, I'm correct, it's going to be my way of engaging, and this is when I speak up, when I'm confident, when I'm dictating how things need to go, when I'm speaking my truths. And then there's communication, and there's an expression of that. So that part of you is welcome. And so that's the part people see, right? But then the other part that people aren't seeing is the other side. And so what are they seeing? Just maybe sometimes a dictator, somebody who is just talking about what they want and what they need, or how they want to have outcome, or, so the other part, which people would want to welcome, is somebody who is compassionate, or somebody who is benefiting them as well, because there's nothing wrong with somebody who has a list of things that they're needing, requirements, but people aren't going to want to work with someone if all it is like, this is what I want and need, and that's all I have to contribute. But if you want and need something, that's not something that I'm capable of providing, because I don't trust myself or know myself enough to even be able to give of that. Okay, so we have fears of being weak. We have fears of not being able to produce. We have fears of not being able to understand. And when we don't understand, when we feel threatened that we could look weak, we just don't even go there. Okay, and so I feel like this energy is needing to be expressed and needing to be integrated, so that we have a good balance when we show up, because other people might see you. Okay, this is like coming through, and depending on obviously their own traumas and their own projections, then this part could, sway heavily. But let's say objectively, if someone were to see you objectively, you're somebody who manipulates to get what you want, who's fairly entitled, who thinks your feelings are more superior. And I know you don't feel this way. Okay, but in your action, it's like, my feelings are more superior. And the reason this comes through like this is because, could you imagine having a bunch of feelings that are suppressed, a bunch of things that wants to be acknowledged and seen and not allowed? Okay, they're not allowed to come out. And so when we finally do handpick the ones that are allowed, it's like they're very special, right? It's not like I let everything out. So we're all equally, and it's balanced, but it's like I have to hand select what you see, because I need to be in good alignment and control of what you see of me. So I hand select it very carefully, and I mull it over, and I sit and make sure that that is exactly what I want you to see and understand of me. And so therefore, when I do it, I'm going to be very protective of this thing. And so that energy you have around your presentation of that piece that you're choosing to show, is that you connect to that piece, okay, comes with a heavy energy of entitlement and a heavy energy of it's very important. And so it's more important than anything you have on the go or anything you're trying to show me, because you're probably, if you're somebody who is balanced or somebody who is able to be vulnerable, somebody who is, capable of saying, I don't know, or show their weakness or communicate openly their fears, then it's like, yeah, all those things don't really matter. But look at me and this one thing that I'm choosing to show you. And so we could feel very disappointed when the one thing or the two things that we're talking about or choosing to show don't get acknowledged, don't get supported in a way, because we put a lot of weight and we feel like they're super important, which they are, of course, but we prioritize, we put a lot of energy. And so when the other person, regardless of the situation, doesn't respond and support that thing in the biggest way, because they don't know that you're selecting from your baskets only two things to show, then they're not going to want to acknowledge you so much, or that thing. It's not as important because they're like, oh, there comes pile one, a little bit manipulative, a little bit trying to, like, who's going to want to only stick around somebody who's very selective to show only certain things, and then to say, yes, let me, support and make that part of whatever you're showing me as such a big honor. So we feel let down by people. And we feel let down. Okay, and so this is coming through as, it's like a catch-22, because I feel like when we finally do choose to show, we've mulled it over, we've contemplated it. Took a lot of strength, according to us, to even, pick the ones that might be borderline, ones that we might want to tuck away and not reveal to other people, but we chose it. And so we're very sensitive. And if that person doesn't acknowledge, doesn't respond, or doesn't prop it up or support that part in which we're showing at that point in time, we get discouraged, and then we think twice next time. And so we hoard more inwards. And so at a certain point, we're going to become a complete recluse. We're going to be completely not sharing of ourselves, because why? Because we've been disappointed and we can't trust other people to support our feelings and our emotions. Meanwhile, the more we hoard, the more we are withdrawn, the more we aren't sharing, the more people are like just not necessarily wanting to work with somebody like this. They want to have somebody who is integral in sharing their shadow. Okay, like, and what that means is not necessarily like you got to know your subconscious and all that. It's like, no, but you got to share parts of yourself that are difficult within yourself. Like, you should be aware of it, one, and you should be able to share it if you trust me as your friend, your lover, your whatever. But if you don't, then it's like this person, pile number one, doesn't trust me to share, doesn't trust to be vulnerable, doesn't trust to open up, doesn't trust to express. And on top of it, wants me to cater to their feelings, wants me to do whatever for them. So we might find ourselves having to build alone. We might find ourselves like having to be very creative with how we deal with people. We might find ourselves sort of, like I said, pulled in certain situations, going in certain ways we don't want to go, just to sort of accommodate our own fears. And so this is actually a weakness, not to express yourselves and be vulnerable. And so I feel like, we are disappointed by a lot of people, and it takes a lot of courage in order for us to be able to express all of ourselves, Clearly, if we have certain intimate things about ourselves that, we want to share with certain people only, or no one, that's our choice. But I feel like with this pile, it's like there's so much here that's not wanting to be shared. So there might be strong like trust issues, but it's not that everyone is so untrustworthy. It's really that we can't trust anyone because of our trauma. Maybe we've been very betrayed, And for whatever reason, this created a defense mechanism to not be able to trust people with that part of ourself. But I feel like even these parts of ourself that we're not sharing, some of these aren't even like, nobody's going to think twice about it. If anything, it's going to strengthen and develop strength in that relationship or in that dynamic. But we have a built up anxiety, so much so over time, that it creates this worry that if I express this or show this in the slightest way, this person's going to utilize this against me. I'm going to be so weak and at the mercy of those people in this relationship once I reveal that part that we're not seeing clearly, and we're also not engaged in a dynamic with those relationships and with those people on a level here that is understanding dynamics, so of course we'll continue to pull situations and people that are not pleasant, because if this is our energy, it certainly isn't very pleasant, right? And we keep continuously, like I said, experiencing disappointment, and it could be the slightest sort of reaction that somebody has to what we say. I feel like there's a sensitivity. If somebody just responds or doesn't respond or says the wrong word when we choose to engage, we get very triggered and we take it very personal. And so we're really not one. Okay, there's another message coming through. We're really not one who can see other people clearly. And so this is felt and understood by people who intuitively know themselves, because there's too much focus on self. There's too much focus on how I appear, what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, how I look, what I'm creating here. And I need to be in control of dynamic, and I need to do all that. And so how much percent is there really engaged with understanding other people, looking at other people, engaging, understanding, and having intellectual conversation about their fears or their worries or their thing, or understanding this? There's just too much energy in regards to defending one's own self. And so I feel like we're left with, because of this, okay, what you're going to be left with is sort of situations where it's not fulfilling. You're picking through a lot of leftover crap from other people, or they're just giving you crappy leftovers of themselves. And it's not because you're only deserving of leftover crappy energy. It's because of the fact that it's if somebody is so hoarding and barely giving and withholding, then they're I'm just going to mirror their energy and give them a little tidbit. So if you get tidbits, scraps, and the worst experience end of people, it's because that's the part they're willing to show up for you, because you're not willing to show up for other people. Never mind, you're not even willing to show up for yourself, and you think you're showing up for yourself because you're I'm being very in control of what I let out. And so there's this feeling of loving self enough to be so selective, to be in control of yourself so much. And so you think that you have this strong love of self and relationship of self, because you're so in tune with what you can say and how you can engage. Meanwhile, no, this is the opposite. You don't love self fully because you're shunning parts of yourself that are also you. Parts of yourself that don't know answers, that could be weak, that could have feelings in a way that are not understood. And so you're blocking your potential here. Okay, and so there's a potential to create something. You guys might be a creator. Okay, and also maybe this comes through in way of a creative thing. Since people don't understand me, I'm spending a lot of time painting or writing or listening to music, which by the way came out for pile number 2 if you guys were called. But but there is a block here. And I think the block here is in one, creating the relationships and the environment that are going to foster and support us. and that we can manifest different paths, different relationships, different opportunities, rather than be thrown about wherever the universe is going to fit someone like this, because we have so much limitation and restriction with how we can be and what we can say. It's going to limit who comes around you. It's going to limit situations in which you can build. And so we might feel like an outsider, and we might be a little self-absorbed. Okay. And so we're needing to incorporate the parts of ourself that feels uncomfortable, awkward, all those things that we'd rather just shove away and not to deal with. Okay. But I feel like this is the hard part, is to get through that part of your ego, because I feel like there's a part of you that was coming through here that obsesses over situations in a way that it didn't go well. And then we hold grudges and we mull it over, and we continue to support the ego, why we were right, why that person didn't, and then we defend that. And so we might have a lot of disputes or conflicts with people because we really want to be heard and seen. And of course, we all want to be heard and seen. But it's so much so where it's like we feel entitled to be heard and seen so strongly in a way. So it's like I was using that example, when we hand select the parts we want to show, right? And then all of a sudden it doesn't go the way we want, or we don't get the response that we want. Then it's like we mull over in our minds, that person, they didn't treat me right, they were disrespectful, they did this, they did that. And then we're so aggressive with our understanding of that. And I feel like where that fuel comes from to be why we're so upset and feel so disrespected and not seen and really hung up on that thought, is because your inner self and your shadow self is like wanting you to be able to accept the parts you aren't. So you're doing the exact same thing that you're thinking other people are doing to you, you're doing to yourself. You're tucking away parts of yourself that are like, hey, I'm important, look at me, like embrace me. And you might think I'm weak or dumb or don't know, but I'm equally as important. Hello. And you're like, shh, don't talk. Go into the shadow. No, don't let anybody see. And then you go show something else. And then someone's like, no, shh, don't, like, and then you're like, what? Don't shh that. It's so important. It's like, what? So you're extra offended by what you're doing to yourself, thinking other people are doing this to you. And so therefore, like I said, there's a lot of conflict here. Okay. So there is a need to rise above certain situations so we could see the greater picture of what's actually going on. So objectively, how did I contribute? And how did the situation really factually, objectively contribute to me? Because we're so hung up on our position that we'll see situations as being unfair and unjust towards us. Meanwhile, is that really true? Are we really rising above and saying, ooh, I was actually really concerned with this, that, and the other, and I really did only contribute a little breadcrumb, and I wanted that little breadcrumb to be held on a platter, and it didn't. So I have to look at myself in the situation, and then you can look at that other person and say, yeah, they're right. I would too respond the way they did. And only when we rise and see that the engagement that we're getting back from other people is really what we're creating, really the dynamic in which we've been, manifesting with our own action. Then we start to humble ourselves and we start to say, I need to not be so concerned with how people are going to respond and do and say and withhold myself. Like a withholding energy is not good, because when we withhold, it's one, creating conflict within ourselves because it feels shunned and not seen. And two, it creates a dynamic where other people feel like you don't trust them, or you're too good enough to express yourself and be seen this way. Or they could see right through it and say you're too, egotistical to appear weak or wrong. And so those people aren't going to want to talk to you or hang out with you or think you're arrogant. And other people might see this as, just, oh, poor person. But you don't want to be seen as poor person. But meanwhile, your idea of yourself is this strong person who's really in charge and in control and being seen the way you want it to be. But that's like a complete illusion, because I'm going to tell you right now, most people are seeing you as somebody who is very self-absorbed and who is inconsiderate. okay, who's very selective with what you're showing here, but it's not helping you, and it's pushing people away, and it's creating the opposite of what you want, which is being loved, welcomed, and sharing and embraced and creating balance. And then other people will just have sympathy and say, well, this is somebody, and these are more ascended people who do hang out with you. It's like they see through all of your pain, your inability to be weak, and they just kind of put up with with your shadow here. And so you trust those people more, but then you create an echo chamber of those people supporting your deficiency here, you know? And then some people probably just don't, I don't know, they could certainly do the same thing. And then there's a complete lack of communication and complete turmoil. So, but I know one thing for certain, it's not a balanced dynamic with people that you deal with at all, because you're not balanced within yourself. And so it doesn't matter how ascended the person is, how loving the person is, how compassionate, how welcoming they are, or how non-judgmental they are of your weaknesses. They will forever be very challenged to deal with you because of your imbalance in self and your inability to welcome and embrace all of yourself, the parts that are being tucked away that you don't want to be seen. And so these are parts that you yourself are telling yourself, because again, this is a collective reading. So the parts that you really think would make you look weak or bring nerves about you, or put you in a position of being vulnerable, or like, then I wouldn't know what to say or do, or how to act or respond. So therefore I won't even do it. Those things are calling the shots. Those things are really built up, and if they're not right now, they're going to build up to a point where we have to address and do something with this. But Spirit's big message here is it's getting in the way of your manifestations, getting in the way of your relationships. And it's also very seen through, like it's seen through as a manipulative thing. And so if it's manipulative, no one wants to be around that, and if they're choosing to be around that, God bless their soul. And it's blocking your creative thing that I think you're supposed to be here creating, because that would require you to work with that sort of part of your shadow so you can create something different. Okay, but we really need to see ourselves, and we really need to be honest about those things that we're hiding if we want to be seen by others at their level. Because I feel like there's something about us not feeling really at other people's levels intellectually, or there's a deficiency here. And you are at another person's level, because everybody has weaknesses. Everybody has states where they worry, or they don't know if their emotions are going to make them feel foolish, or like, it's like this energy is like, my emotions are going to make me sort of be, I don't know, out of control. And so I don't want to be out of control. I want to be in the control. But meanwhile, we're more imprisoned. We're so imprisoned. So if we think we're free, we're actually not free. We're very chained. And I see chains here. The chains are driving us. The chains are holding us. And situations swing. People swing for us, according to us. We don't have like consistent situations, circumstances that are fulfilling, that see us, that embrace us, where we feel we're having a mutual understanding. There's always this big obstacle that gets in the way. No matter how much someone wants to connect to you, no matter how much somebody wants to see you and understand and welcome and love you, and this, if you have a big block, how can they get through it? Because you can't even get through that block. And so the way to heal this thing would be to really, one, obviously be honest about this thing, and to welcome, go listen to the intro, but welcome that inner child, welcome those parts of self to come out, at least to you, and recognize. And then we allow them to come out, because the more we shut them out, the more we suppress them, the more we pretend they don't exist and they're not a part of us, the more they cry out to be heard and seen. Because we are all those things. We are all those things that we see in other people. Okay, we're much more similar than we think. And so, we want to not think of ourselves as being manipulative. We want to not think of ourselves as being stubborn. But there's an obsessive sort of thing that comes through when you start to think about how you've been treated unjustly or unfairly in situations. And that's what starts to drive you in how you respond with relationship, because you start to see people as threat. Because last time you didn't respond in this way. Last time you didn't support my delusion of self. Last time you didn't, build this up as big as I built it up. Meanwhile, it's like they're not going to build it up, like I said, because they're not seeing that as the be all end all thing, because they don't know that you tucked away 10 other things and that you selected that one thing that's so important to you. Okay, all parts are important to you. Once you start to see all those parts as equally important, we don't start to build up these parts of ourself that need all this like support, and it's like such a big ego that needs to be propped up by people, and it doesn't want to be let down. So this message is a big ego blow, because this is the last thing this person would want to hear. But props to you if you're here listening to this whole thing, and if you resonate with that, that would be why. And so I don't even feel I need tarot. I really don't feel I need tarot, because I feel like that is pretty much the messaging here. And so as long as we're aware and we're open to embracing ourselves, and no matter how slow we go, it doesn't matter, as long as our nose is pointing towards the truth, as long as we're seeing, we're not masking it up, then we understand. So this is your reading, pile number 1. I hope this helped you. I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye. Hello, gorgeous angels. Pile number 2, you guys picked the healer card for your pick. Let's get into your reading. I have pre-shuffled oracle cards. I have not looked at these. And I asked Spirit exactly, what does pile number 2? How is it that they're seeing themselves in regards to their current energy? And what is going on in the shadow self and their subconscious? So it's a you versus your subconscious shadow, excuse me. And like I mentioned in the intro, which I do suggest you go listen to, our shadows are shadow for a reason. And sometimes it is very, very difficult for us to even understand or see that part of ourselves. And so it's important that you resonate with the parts that I'm describing as you and your behavior and what you're experiencing. Because if you're experiencing what I'm talking about here, then chances are the shadow comes with it. Okay, and shadows aren't always easy to hear, and we might not be ready to see or listen. And that's okay. Okay, this could also be somebody's energy we're dealing with, and the reason why we're hearing about this person is so that we know how to deal with other people's shadows. That could certainly be the case. Okay, so keep an open mind, don't force it to fit, and I am doing my best here to relay the message here, but it's not meant to cause pain, okay? Just healing. So let's take a listen. So we have 13 with coherence. The frequency of coherence supports, look at all my pen marks. Oh my goodness, sorry. Coherence. The frequency of coherence supports our ability to harmonize the frequency of the heart with the frequency of the mind for an optimal ability to create the reality that we desire. So 13 is Scorpio energy. And we have the moon in Mercury, number 11. Okay. And we have the shadow person. Oh my goodness, very fitting for this reading. So I'm getting Capricorn energy, I'm getting Virgo, Gemini, I'm getting Cancer and Pisces, and more Scorpio. Yeah, and Scorpio. And we have creation. Let's put that here. And we have disgusted. Okay, and we have Don Juan. Light attributes spotlights your positive, seductive qualities. Shadow attributes using the power of romantic attraction for private agenda. And we have integration 85, assertiveness, thorough action, positioning, decision, discipline, self-expression, and thoughtful action. Number 1 and 4. And we have submission with basic fear, number 17, or the number 8, powerlessness, enslavement, fragility, weakness, subjugation, dependency. Type 8, the challenger, instinctive center between strength and weakness. And we have the butterfly. Butterfly is giving me the number 13, which is all about transformation and its final states. Okay, it's also liberation. And we have the spider. Interesting spider came out for pile 1. Some of you guys were interested, but I don't know if it's the similar energy. Spider is all about that creative ability to make and manifest what we want to see, but it is creator energy. Again, Scorpio, very strong here. Okay, and we have starfish. So 17 is the star, and we have starfish. And so starfish could talk about how we want to appear, wanting to appear successful, or how we appear to ourselves, putting a lot of weight maybe on appearances or our image, or what we build, or how successful we are in some sort of way. Okay, and we have the thief. So this is giving me 7 swords. I'll adjust these in a bit here. Okay, thief. And we see this little red chair. I used to have a chair like this a long time ago. Brings back lots of memories. So this chair is empty. An empty chair could mean somebody leaving our life. Okay, or maybe somebody not stepping up. And it's giving me Emperor energy as well, Aries energy, divine masculine energy. So the womb, this is feminine energy. So we have number 46. That could be an age. It could be also symbolizing the number 10, which is this 13, because 13 is all about transformation. 10 is all about transformation, endings, transformation, ends of cycle, birthing something here with the womb. We have the flame, 51, or the number 6. 6 is about harmony. 6 is about problem solving. We have the flame. And so we have revenge. Oh my goodness. So what is this? Mars in Scorpio. So yeah, lots of Scorpio energy. Revenge. Okay. Yowzers. And we have surrender to inner peace. Cultivate inner peace on a daily basis in quiet meditative moments. Focus on the stillness within and enjoy this inner refuge. Others will feel your good vibes too, and your life will flow more easily. Alrighty. And we have the despicable face. Number 48. Or the number 12. And 12 is all about, I am getting balance for some reason, and I don't normally with 12. But 12 is hangman energy. I need to change perspective, but I am getting balance. Okay, so 12 is 3. 3 is growth, relationships. 3 is Empress energy, which we could get strong from this womb. And like I said, hangman, which is a change of perspective, becoming enlightened. It's also world energy, and I was getting the world from, I don't know, where was I getting the world from? Somewhere. I was getting world energy. Oh, the womb. Yeah, world energy. Okay. So here we have the blotched blue-tongued lizard. So blue is about self-expression. We were getting this with the self-expression. Okay. So native to Australia, the blotched blue-tongued lizard is a very discreet and therefore difficult to study. To defend itself, this lizard whistles. The contrast of its blue tongue against its pink mouth shocks and intimidates its predators. Omnivores and not very fast. Okay, nice sentence. Omnivores and not very fast. It eats most small, slow animals. It also loves fruit, especially strawberries. Eubadoo. Okie dokie. So, disgusted. Wow, that's a strong word, right? Creation. Okay, let me sit here with this energy, you guys. It might take a bit to sort of peel back these layers and that sort of thing, but just let me sit here with this energy. What do we have? The little mousey here with the healer, and you can go click on the timestamp. Moon in Mercury. I'm going to read this Moon Mercury. 11. So what do we have? Primitive, you are obsessed with your own feelings. You share far too openly without filtering. Adaptive, you are a wordsmith who accurately and beautifully describes feelings and nuance. Evolving, you have a gift for emotional oration. Your words reach right into the hearts of others to invite their inner angels into dialogue. Okay. In conjunct opposition square, primitive, you lash out verbally with mean words and accusations, uncontrollably gushing inappropriate content. Adaptive, you recognize the tension between what you feel and what you want to say. You work with this tension to be strategic, authentic, and diplomatic. Evolving, as you commandeer language and emotion, you become ever more enthralling and motivating. Your verbal mastery draws you to bring your gifts to a higher and more noble causes. Okay. Okie dokie. Okay. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Okie dokie. This feels like a divine feminine energy, but that doesn't have to be. Okay. Like energy I'm talking about here. I feel like there is an energy here of a lot of judgment. Okay. And we wouldn't say, oh, I'm judging anyone, but we are making a judgment because we're carrying an energy here of wanting people to be in their highest and in their best way of engaging with us because we engage in a high and loving way. So we might think we're very connected to our emotions and our feelings, and we're compassionate and we're giving and we're caring, all these wonderful things, which, you know, we could certainly be. Okay. But we connect to those things of how we are. And then we are really putting out there that other people need to be the exact same way. And when I say the exact same way, it's not the exact, like, do the exact same thing we do, but it's like everyone else also then needs to be compassionate and caring and open and share their emotions and express themselves and give in the same manner that I do. And this is actually not necessarily helping you at all. Okay. So the more we believe this, the more suffering we have. And yes, should people be compassionate, loving, caring, and that sort of thing? Yes, absolutely. But if they're not, that has absolutely nothing to do with us sticking around there and trying to fix people or trying to make situations change. What this means is that we're not accepting people as they are. Okay. And so this means there's a shadow part of ourselves that we're suppressing and denying that also wants to be how it is, regardless if other people approve of it or not, or accepting of it or not. And so it's like when we share an emotional story, if we are emotional beings, it's like we want the other side to contribute in the same fashion. And it's like, no, not everyone is emotional being. Not everybody can provide the same level of energy that you're thinking that you're giving out there. And so there's a need for you to not change how compassionate you are. Of course, you're compassionate. It's more of your expectation of what other people do and how they are that I feel is creating your suffering here. Because I feel like there's a high suspicion or dealing with people here that you can start to see and make judgments of and saying they're not as, you know, like they're just using, or they're more imbalanced, so they're creating what they want with me. And so we have disharmony in our internal energy body. We can't find peace within ourselves, peace with just knowing people are going to do and be how they are. And we have control over ourselves to then go and be how we are with other people, or put up with the situation and not take it so personal. It's up to us, whatever we want to do in that situation. We don't have to put up with those people and figure out like why they can't, or try to see ourselves as maybe I got to do this more, or maybe I got to do that more, or maybe, because then we're not accepting ourselves. And it's like, I appreciate myself as somebody who might be more expressive, who might need to talk things out more, who might need to, you know, like talk about things in an open way as they happen to make me feel safe. Whereas other people want to think about it, go for a walk, mull it over, and they're more in their mind. Okay, that doesn't mean one way is right and one way is wrong, but it's like there's a defensiveness here in regards to how other people engage that we automatically take as threatening. It's threatening because it's going to try to overpower me. And so people who aren't like me, okay, like me, not to dress like me or whatever, but like me, of my caliber, then they're threats. They're going to either use me, they're going to want to like they have power over me. They're going to be more in control. They're going to want to dominate situations. They're going to, like we have a built up story about those people, rather than every person is completely individual, and we are completely individual. And so we have parts of ourself that come through in certain ways. And in the shadow self, there's a part of us that doesn't allow ourselves to fully accept people if they are in an energy here where we feel is not fair to us, because we have a preconceived idea of what being fair means. And so I feel like there is a part of us dying to allow ourselves, and it's really allowing ourselves. I'm going to have to pull some tarot here, but allow ourselves to be comfortable in situations without feeling anxious or judging that somebody is out to get something from us. And because I feel like we then start to project and start to have feelings of disgust here for that type of behavior or that type of person. And so this is judging, because nothing's bad or good. If people are acting in their shadow, well, we recognize that they have shadows. We don't get disgusted by their shadows, but I feel like there's a lot of getting turned off. There's a lot of emotional responses to this. And so we're needing to recognize our emotional response to how people are. And instead of being emotionally attached to our story, see it from a more objective point of view, that people could have shadow, people could certainly be acting the way that they're acting, and not try to fit it into a story of what we think is happening or how that person is going to, fit into our story, because I feel there's a preconceived idea of what you think is good and what you think is bad. And that already is the downfall. If we come with a preconceived, and this doesn't mean don't have any standards. This doesn't mean don't know how, completely don't know how to be treated. This just means if you have a preconceived understanding what's good and bad, you've already shot yourself in the foot here. Because there's 8 billion people in the world, and they're all completely uniquely different. And so we can't just say people like this are good and people like that are bad. No, people could have shadows that might be stemmed from not wanting to use you or enslave you or create some form of dynamic, but it could be that they do this as a defense mechanism. That could definitely be why they are the way they are. And until we see it that way and understand that, we start to engage with that person under our own assumption, and we start to erode that relationship or that friendship or that situation. So there's an eroding of a dynamic based on our own preconceived assumptions and tying everything back to us. It's like a personal thing. It's like, if I know my emotions, if I'm being honest with me, if I can objectively in my mind know how I am, then I think I'm being objective about all these other people. And it's like, no, you're not being objective. One, you're coming in with your own preconceived idea of who you are and what is good and what is bad. And then you're projecting onto other people that they need to act in the same way you act, and that's good and that's bad. And then once you pocket them like that, then your dynamic changes, because then you're looking at them from that which you already labeled on them. This person's a user. This person's a womanizer. This person just wants to control me. This person is a narcissist. This person is this. This person is that. Meanwhile, we're the ones suffering because we're suspicious, and everyone else out there needs healing, and everyone else there is not this, that, and the other. And it's like, no, and then it's like we feel like everyone out there, it might be out there to get us. It's like they'll be out there to get us until they heal, or until they're the ones that see their own problem, or until it's like, no one's out there to get you. They're not. And you could say, yeah, there's really evil people out there. It's like, yeah, but these people they have shadow. And they have shadow and they'll act shadowy, but nobody can get you if you don't let them get you. People can't impact you unless you allow them to impact you and rock your inner peace. Your inner peace is completely under your own control. If people go act a fool, they're only making themselves act foolish. That has nothing to do with how they're seeing you. And that has nothing to do with anything other than that person's shadow coming out. And so there's a need to really recognize people as not personally attacking you, not personally acting in a way like that because they're bad or narcissist or they carry that and which needs healing. No, it's people are acting however they act. It could be shadow. It could be their own way of being. It could be anything at all, but it's neither good or bad. It is how they are. And I can either understand these people as the way they are and I can engage, or I could choose not to engage when I feel like it's not helpful or it doesn't feel good or it's something like this. Okay. And so once we can engage with people in this way, I feel like then we've come into a greater understanding of dynamic and free ourselves from situations with people that might feel like they're controlling us or have more power or really are dictating. Because right now there's an energy here of yours that's like situations and people are really dictating my happiness. And it's like, I want to find somebody who speaks my language and understands me and this. And it's like, you'll forever be searching for that. And why is because everyone, like I said, 8 billion people or whatever, yeah, you'll have people that are a little similar to like you, but they're not you. And you've already come with preconceived understanding of what you think people, that type of person needs to be. And it's like, no, you have to be a little more objective into observing how people truly are from a place of not judging whether it's good or bad and seeing them like this. And once you start to see them like this, we start to have more understanding. And we start to, like, once we have this inner peace around them, the pool of people become wider of who we can tolerate, of who we can accept, of who we can understand, and of who add value to us. Because I think we're cutting people off that actually are valuable, and we're cutting people off that actually could provide something, but we're so focused on their shadow. We're so focused on the thing we don't like. We're so focused on what's bad about that person or not jiving. And we get so emotionally wrapped up in that. And it's like, it means this and it means that and it means this and that. And it's like, no, it doesn't mean any of those things. It could just mean that's that person, period. And so I feel like there is something here about needing to be authentic. And I do feel, though, that, yeah, okay, so in this group, I feel like you could certainly be authentically yourself, okay? Because I don't feel like there's a whole bunch of suppression here. Because I feel like in this group, if we feel emotional, if we want to say something, like I feel like we allow ourselves to be like this, okay, which is good. Shamelessly yourself. But I feel where the trouble comes is we start to project when other people act in a certain way, that we automatically say that that person isn't being real or isn't being true or is being this or is being that. And that's where the problem lies. We start to create our perception of who that person is and what do they do. And we start to see them through those eyes. And over time, it changes that dynamic and that relationship, because it's like how I see them, how I perceive them, and my distorted view of them becomes a reality. And therefore, the reality that I see starts to create the dynamic. But if I was objective, if I remove the veil, if I really just saw this person as maybe having shadow, maybe being how they are, maybe it isn't threatening, maybe they just don't express how they do, maybe they are this or whatever. It's like, and seeing them like that and allowing for this. Okay, this does not mean I allow people to be mean to me. No, but I think we need to understand, what does being mean to you even mean, and what does that look like? Because I think we already carry these preconceived understandings of what's bad and what's good and what's mean and what's open and what's not and what's that. And so now we have this list this understanding of how people need to be in order to, be at my level. And it's like, no, and more no. We will forever be suffering and disappointed because we'll be in the search of it, in the search of it, in the search of it. And it's like, no, there's no need to search. These people already exist and they're already around you. It's whether you're seeing it or you're not seeing it. And I think we're choosing to see what's not good in people. We're choosing to see the side of people that threatens us. And so in the shadowy subconscious, there's a part of us that needs to embrace even parts of ourselves that aren't great. Like when we want to be a little maybe more, I don't know, like allow the part of ourself that might be whatever we would shame as bad, whatever we'd say is not good, to acknowledge that we also carry that within us. Doesn't mean we have to partake in bad things, but we are also creatures of the divine with an ability to use people, with an ability to, like engage in bad ways as well, rather than thinking, no, I'm not bad. I don't do bad things. I wouldn't do the bad thing. And it's like, okay, well, you might not do the bad thing, but you certainly have the ability within you to do this thing. And that's the thing that needs to be acknowledged. Because I feel like there is no inner peace until we acknowledge that part of ourself. Because when we embrace it and see it in ourselves, we can now accept it and embrace it in others. And that's where that disconnect really is. We will never be able to accept it in others and see it in others. And again, accept does not mean allow this person to do whatever you think feels bad to you. Okay, but I think we're already thinking right off the hop that it feels bad. It feels bad. This person's making me feel bad. It's like, yeah, because the shadow here is already flared up. And so this is a very tricky one. There's having to sit with what's bad within us, embrace and look at it, and twist how we see it rather than it being bad and good and just being how humans are. Sometimes they're selfish and sometimes they're egoic and sometimes they have dependencies and sometimes this and that and the other. And sometimes they want revenge and sometimes, but we have to recognize that within ourselves, because I think we're not acknowledging, we think we're above this, and we start to then project that anyone who has that is not good, or they carry that in which we don't. And it's like, no, you carry it too. You might not be acting in that way. And so then we start to understand those people. We start to really understand, and understanding is what needs to happen here. Not put up with, not engage with if we don't want, but it's like an understanding, because this provides the inner peace. Then we can allow those people to do however they are, and we can live our life. We can either just move on with ourselves, not be threatened, not think this person's a narcissist, not think this person's bad or has a bad agenda or this or that. Like, that's a lot of drama. Okay, this is like drama pile. And the only reason there's drama is because we haven't found the inner peace to say, I too have all the things that narcissist has, or that user or that abuser. Whoever's the user or the abuser, I too have these things. I might not be acting in that way, but recognizing it within self, because it is there. Trust me, I assure you. We all have the propensity and the capacity to carry those things. It's just your accumulative lifespans and your experiences have produced the version of you. Okay, sorry, my dog is barking. And so this is the version of you, but if you live the life that the person you're looking at lived, I assure you, you would have the exact same responses. Okay? Because if you have the same lifetimes that this person did, and the same upbringing and the same experiences, you would too be a Don Juan, a narcissist, a this and a that and another. You would. Okay? The only reason you're not is because you've lived a different life. And so once we start to really accept all ourselves, the shadowy parts, the parts that we think are good and not attribute good or bad or labels, this is the inner peace, because this is all about knowing how to be peaceful with ourselves. Because we're putting a lot of weight on how other people engage with us and what they say and do. and then always taking it back and comparing it to us. And then we come up with a story that I think really builds over time. And this really, like I said, it could erode relationships. It could erode your future, the future potential of who you can meet and what you can experience, because you're already very restricted and limited with how you're seeing people. You're already projecting what's good and bad. And I feel like it's going to be a very narrow scope of relationship, narrow scope of what you can actually experience in the world here, once you have opened your mind. And so I feel like opening the mind allows you to see people in complete different ways, and actually makes you more empowered not to be used, because you've welcomed that part within yourself. And so I do feel like there is a part here that does talk about having to be authentic, because like I said, like there is a part of you that allows yourself to welcome how you're feeling and engage in that way. But I feel like there is a part of you that, how do I put a word on this, is it does put a lot of weight and concern with the outer appearance of what's going on. And said another way, there is a superficialness to this, because at the end of the day, when we're gauging situations in this type of a superficial way, what that person's going to say or do or whatever, and that's where the weight is, we're not really connecting to the essence of that relationship, the essence of what's really going on, And so this is what we could take away from people's value. Like, people could be full of value and we wouldn't see it, because all we're going to be seeing is what we're sort of fearing or what we don't like about that person. And we're slapping on that version. And then that person or that thing is already our understanding. And so it builds up over time. And we start to see more of those types of people we don't like, because we start to see that in a lot of different other people. And it's like, no, that's a complete different other person. You just saw one little trait that reminded you of that person, and you ran with a big story. So I think you're robbing yourself of experience, your belief that people aren't stand up. Potentially, you might have you get let down by people very easily. You might just project a lot of disappointment around people. Like, there's a lot more bad than good, a lot more people that want to use, a lot more people that are, and that's not true. It really isn't, unless we want to see that, then it becomes a reality. And so I feel like sometimes we might say things here that we're feeling in the moment, and we think, oh, that's my authenticity. And it's like, no, that's your own shadowy hurts projections coming out there with words. And so we need to know what we're saying and how we're engaged and why we're saying, because I feel like your emotions get triggered by when you experience someone who you think's unjust or bad. Okay, I use the word bad, but it's like, yeah, this is a shadow person. This is a bad person. This is like an unjust person. And then we start to engage with them in that way, and we start to say things and do things. And then we create that reality with that person. And then that person responds to us based on what we said, which was unjust, because we just did a whole lot of projecting on that person. We assumed they were bad, or we assumed that with that aspect, they were all those things, because that's how we treated them and that's how we saw them. So of course they're going to act like that around you. They're going to let you down. They're going to disappoint you. They will become narcissists. I'm using very dramatic words here. And it's like, they don't become the narcissist, but it's like through your eyes they do. Because then they start to be a little more detached or cold or whatever. Because it's like, every time I go around pile number 2, you already think I'm a narcissist. You're already making assumptions. You're already putting me in the doghouse. You already have this preconceived thing. So of course I'm not going to be all warm and fuzzy. Of course I'm not going to be affectionate. Of course I'm not going to want to hang around somebody who's all triggered and hurt and offended and dramaed. about what I said last time. Meanwhile, what I said might have been an innocent thing, or what I said had nothing to do with you. It just had to do with my own day or my own upbringing or my own shadow or my own way of thinking I was doing something okay. My intention might have been good, but you ran off thinking I was bad, thinking I had bad intention, thinking that, I don't know, you made up a story about who I am, and then it impacted how you treat me, and then it impacted how I respond to you, and then it impacted our dynamic overall over time. And then there's conflict, and there's like tit for tat and a lot of drama. Get them before they get me. And so now I feel like there's a developed thing here of like being very cautious, of like, maybe I can't show my emotions, or maybe I can't. Then it's like, no, now we're suppressing a part of us that was the part that was okay to come out. Like, yeah, it's okay to be expressive and emotional and this, that, and the other, but not when we're feeling triggered and traumatized and just like crying and like being all out of control because of the shadow. But we shouldn't suppress ourselves. But I feel like we think the shadow work here is suppressing that part. It's like, no, allow your expressions, allow your emotions, allow your passion, allow you to be that way, but observe. Why are you saying and doing what you're doing? Observe the people around you. Are they actually like this? Or are you just seeing them this way because of your own preconceived pains and your own experiences of the past? And so there's like an energy of like, I think what you're trying to heal is misguided in the wrong direction. Like, one, for sure, we can't heal other people. So scratch that off the table. The only thing we can heal is ourselves. But two, I feel like, well, how we're doing the shadow work or what we're trying to heal is actually creating more conflict. There is no healing by suppressing parts of ourselves. There's no healing by being more like projecting more fear out there, or being more like aware, like, because the awareness we have is actually skewed. Yes, discernment is good, but when we have fears, when we have experiences, our discernment is out of whack. And that, in a nutshell, is what this is about. Your discernment is a little out of whack because of past experiences, because of suppression of parts of self that aren't bad, but that are all of yourself that you need to embrace as part of you, so that you can recognize that in others and become one connected with that person. We start to see beyond their shadow. We start to connect to that person. We start to have more humility, more compassion, more understanding. When we could see other people's shadows with compassion and beyond that and see their essence, I assure you that person will change, because by being welcoming and not being so hung up on their shadow and taking it personal, that person will feel like by your guidance, by your light, they want to be authentic. They want to do more right by you. They start to understand their shadow. Once you remove that, then it's like they could see themselves a little more clearer and they start to wake up. But when we're really hung up on other people's shadow, it's like we're justifying and we're magnifying their shadow. Then they become more defensive. The shadow becomes bigger. The conflict becomes more. It's like we're putting the energy and the healing into the wrong thing. See beyond the shadow. Yeah. So there's spider in the creation here. I feel like what Spirit's really talking about is the types of relationships you're creating and the experiences you're creating. If they're challenging in regards to relationship and people, being like less than or just narcissist or using, abusing, and this, that, and the other, we're the ones that created this sort of dynamic. That's what Spirit's really talking about. And so there's a need to see beyond what we don't want to see in other people, because that means we don't want to see it within ourselves. And once we embrace that part of us, then that mask falls away from that person, because we could see clearly through that mask and see the beauty behind other people. And so potential opens up, because right now I feel like any potential in any situation you're dealing with is capped. It's limited. It's stuck. It can't be birthed. It's still sitting there in the canal. So there's potential with people, There's passion with people. There's creating with people. There's new worlds you can experience with people. But we keep experiencing the same types of experiences and people, either on repeat or the same one with the same person, whatever this is, because we're not graduating past this sort of mind story or this graduation or this ascension of how we're seeing and engaging. We're robbing ourselves of opportunity. And so we really need to, with this coherence, because this is all about a mind-heart coherence, and we need to understand our feelings are really, really driven by our thoughts. Okay? And so our thoughts happen. They're always happening. We don't control which thought we have or how to have a thought. It comes. Okay? But if we believe that thought, completely attached to that thought, we start to inject it with a whole big, strong emotion. That emotional body is what's going to drive you to act and say and do. And so if that thought is inaccurate, if that thought is already projecting, if that thought's already with the veil of the trauma or the veil of a preconceived judgment, then you're engaging in a situation with your own projections, rather than objectively removing the veil and thinking, yes, this thought is actually not true. It's my fear. So this is why it's very important to observe our thoughts and observe how emotionally attached we are to that thought. And not suppress and say, no, don't feel emotion. Don't feel emotion. It's like, no, allow yourself to feel emotion. But no, when are you feeling that emotion? Towards which thoughts? Because it's really towards the thought, not the circumstance and not that person. Emotions happen and we might think it's because this person in this situation. No. It's because we had a thought, and that thought is tied to a past situation, a past experience, a past thing, which has nothing to do with this person, nothing to do with the situation. And so you want to engage with the situation without your preconceived traumas and good and bads and experiences, to still be discerning, but to be objective. And when the thought comes through from the past, we don't infuse it with emotion, because then guaranteed when we have emotional buy-in, we're so charged that we start to respond in that way. And it has nothing to do with this situation at all, not even this person. And even if this person was crazy in the past, let's say all of a sudden they, bopped their head, they fell down the stairs, they're a complete different personality. It's like we remember what we had. And so we start to engage and we start to create that person that we feared. And then over time, this person becomes that, because we're projecting, we're expecting it, we respond in certain ways because we're emotionally charged, and then this person becomes that, in which is the self-fulfilling prophecy. So I hope this helped you. I don't really feel I need to do any tarot for this pile either. I feel like for this pile, it's all about inner peace, and it's all about not robbing yourself of opportunity, because things and people could be absolutely great and wonderful. And we'll start to bring that in once we start to see beyond people's shadows and see everyone as sort of being on our level. Everybody is. Some people might have more shadow than others, but it's like everybody has their own things they're needing to heal and see. And all our essence is all conscious divine energy behind all of that. We're all interconnected. And so there is no bad and good and one's here and one's there. Like, we're all connected here, And so any things you're seeing out there that you don't like in people, that's in you. It's also in you. Okay, so pile number 2, this is your reading. I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye. Hello, gorgeous angels. Pile number 3, you guys picked this card right here, which is the musician. So it looks like a fun card for this type of a reading, but it could just signify here, I don't know, maybe some of you guys could be a busker. And we have someone who's playing, it looks like a ukulele. Maybe you play a guitar or an instrument here as confirmation, or into music here with the musician, could be a musician. But let's take a look. So what are we doing? We're really tapping into your energy, you versus your shadow self. This is going to be most likely a very intense reading, which you may or may not be prepared to hear, because our shadow is not always fun. Okay, so if you're not ready to hear about it, then you might not want to listen to this reading until you are ready. Now, if we resonate with the energy sounding like us and our situation of experience, then chances are this is also your shadow self that pulls through here. Our shadow self is difficult to see because it's the shadow for a reason. And so we might not understand how to understand whether this is us, okay? But so, like I say, rest assured, if this sounds like your energy and what you're experiencing, then chances are this is the shadow you need to be aware of, because shadow gets in the way of relationship dynamics and how we could ascend and proceed. And so we want to know, how's our shadow sort of dictating or driving? Okay, now this could certainly be energy that you're dealing with. And why it comes out this way is because there might be dynamics we're needing to heal or work through. And the best way is to understand other people's shadows. So if it's not you, could certainly be energy around you that's pulled through. This is why you got pulled to this pile, but it's up to you. Okay, so let's take a look. Pile number 3. We have 17 with Moon in Uranus. Wow, okie dokie. And we have Okapi. And we have 46 with Jupiter Chiron energy. So we have strong Aquarius, Cancer, Pisces, and Sagittarius energy. We have throat chakra number 5. The frequency of the throat chakra, the blue flower of life, supports our self-expression and our sense of peace and balance. So definitely music is symbolic of self-expression. Oopsie. And we have deflated with this shadow card. Deflated. And we have death, Scorpio energy. And we have Prince, light attributes, romantic charm, and potential for power. Shadow attribute, using power for self-aggrandizement. Lots of blue here. And we have basic fear number 10. 10 is about endings, completions, transformation. Get judged, get punished, get blamed, mistaking, being wrong, feeling guilty, getting criticized. Type 1, the perfectionist, instinctive center between control and letting go. Interesting. Anger, 46 with the sin. So this is the number 10. So we have 10, 10, could be an angel number. I think that came out for pile 1. If you were pulled to 1, 10, 10 was coming through. Anger, aggressiveness, irritability, judgment, criticism, bitterness, and conviction. Type 1, the perfectionist, instinctive center between control and letting go, coming out again. Okay, we have the bumblebee. And we just have one little bumblebee, so cute. And we have wife. Okay, and we have a divine feminine sitting here with a child. Wife, she's wearing a yellow dress. And we have the venom, number 63, or the number 9. And we have the card of the underworld, number 48. Number 12. And we have versatility, sun in Gemini. So you don't have to have your sun in Gemini, but is giving an energy here of this reading. So the number 3, sun in Gemini. Gemini is the planet of communication, or the sign of communication. I'm getting a lot of that through here. Surrender your fear of change. The universe is reminding you that you are cared for always, whether you're afraid of change in your job, your health, or a relationship, or if you fear aging or death. Repeat the affirmation, I have faith that all is well. Okay. And we have sulfur 29, or the number 11. And we have the moon with the number 2. So moon is feminine energy, it's subconscious energies, could be fears. And we have the burrowing owl. Look at its cute little head. It says, this American owl lives in burrows, abandoned by badgers, foxes, or prairie dogs. The owl has a fairly varied diet, insects, reptiles, small mammals, and even some birds. To attract insects and feed its young easily, it places cow dung near its burrow. Okie dokie. So, do I want that there? I don't know why I want that there. Let me tap into this energy. Beautiful angels, you can click straight away on the channeled message. I do want to read this Jupiter Chiron energy. and the moon in Uranus. So let's see. Moon in Uranus. It says primitive, unhealed attachment wounds makes you emotionally abrasive and rebellious. Adaptive, you personify emotional freedom and self-expression. Evolving, you teach others how to be unafraid of powerful emotions and to embrace change. That's also coming through in your reading. So in conjunct opposition square, your emotions trigger erratic and disruptive behavior. Adaptive, your emotions drive innovative creation. Evolving, your true originality inspires others to let their feelings be what they really are and be expressed and acted out with integrity, even feelings that are unique, unusual, or otherwise non-conforming. Okay, and then let's get Jupiter Chiron with 46. It says, conjunct sextile trine, primitive, posing as a healer or nurturer, you actually are harming people with your inflated ego. Adaptive, you are blessed with generous healing gifts and offer them with humility. Evolving, you are a true avatar of healing and caring modalities, and you teach them freely to anyone in need. And in conjunct opposition square, primitive, you fail to see how belief systems and attitudes can harm people as you persist in your one way of perceiving reality. You also fail to see that one of the people being harmed is yourself. Adaptive, you lean into being of service to others by applying higher learning into healing of individual and collective wounds. Evolving, you are known as a great healer with deep knowledge and understanding of holistic medicine and alternative therapies. Okie dokie. So let us take a look here. Beautiful angels. Okay. I feel there is a suppression here. Okay, and this suppression, sorry, before I get into it, I want to read this Okapi. I'm so sorry. Okapi. Okay, it's not alphabetical, so I'm not sure where this Okapi is going to appear, but here we go. A fated meeting, event, or situation, the higher meaning behind everything. The Okapi is a unique creature, partially resembling a zebra, but most importantly related to the giraffe of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In many ways, the existence of the Okapi seems unlikely, and yet an unknowable number of things aligned to make its existence so. The presence of the Okapi in a reading may speak to something that feels much the same and begs the question of fate, whether in a meeting or a situation. To draw the Okapi card in a reading is a sure sign that something bigger than you is at play. The way things have aligned across time and space to bring you to this moment where everything is falling into place may feel surreal. Moments in our lives where we can see destiny unfolding in front of our eyes are few and far between. There is a deep knowing in our bones that recognizes this pleasant twist of fate, and that same knowing asks us to drink as much as we can stand before there is something crucial to be harnessed and learned. Keep in mind that when destiny turns the wheel, it may not always be pleasant, though it certainly feels big. Sometimes, when everything is aligning to put us on our higher path, it can be extremely difficult. This too requires a certain trust in the way that things are unfolding, even if we don't fully understand why. Look to the higher meaning behind this moment. Much is being revealed. Okay. Interesting. I'm getting a mixture of energy here. And this could certainly be talking about your situation or your circumstance. So you'll have to determine who you are in this pile and who you're not. Okay. But there is a suppression here. There's one energy here. I feel a suppression of communication, being authentically expressive enough, specifically when it comes to sharing emotions. And so you could be either on the receiving end or the person here who's challenged. Okay. And so we'll see as we unfold, because it's supposed to give us a clue as to your situation or your circumstance. So there definitely is someone here who has a severe fear of change, likes things kind of as they are. And I think there's a significant change happening that's destined here with this Okapi, forcing there to be a change. Okay, and when I say forcing, it's like the universe keeps on moving. Things cannot remain the same in our world, no matter how much we try or want or fight. The more we fight and resist, the more challenge and suffering we cause. Okay, and so I feel like there's an energy here of suppressing our expression because we don't feel comfortable sharing our emotions in fear of getting judged, in fear of it going wrong. And I feel like there's a frustration, okay, that's created on both sides, both parties. Okay, and this frustration is because if we're not dealing with authenticities and communications and truths, then there is a challenge. And so I feel like there's a pent up situation. Okay, this is the only pile that's coming through situationally and showing two things. It's like the shadow of a situation. The shadow of a situation is that people are working individually, potentially, rather than together, because bees work together to create. There's something very divine here that's orchestrating these two people or you in a community to come together. Okay, there's a lot of healing. There's something very big here with the Jupiter and this Okapi. Healing, I don't know, like something karmic, healing something of the collective. And this would require massive change in our own world of what we're used to. And so I feel like there's one energy, like I mentioned, but the other energy, it might be really frustrated here, having to go through a situation blind, feeling very deflated, and possibly some angry, and some just completely no longer sort of, I don't know, energetically, I guess, with this deflated, like feeling like there's anything they can contribute or do as a duo, only as themselves. Because they can build with themselves, they can work with themselves, but they cannot find it within themselves to get stuck or deal with a challenging situation here where dealing with somebody who might be very challenged when it comes to fully expressing themselves, poor communication. There's definitely a block here, and it's creating a big stink between these two people. So there is change happening here. Okay, and I think the change is both people are transforming and both people are needing to release certain parts of their world in order for them to move to the next sort of phase in their world. And I think it's required both people to be very, very flexible, almost to the degree of discomfort, and to face their shadows. This is really reminding me of a twin flame. Okay, now you don't have to buy into that whole label, but it's like a soul connection, that's really highlighting certain shadows within both of these people that are needing to be seen by themselves internally about themselves in order for their truest expression to come out so that they can create something beautiful to the collective. And so one is deflated, blind, having to trust the universe, being guided, most likely divine feminine. And so both parties are to create by using their authentic self to express themselves to the collective, to create healing, to create whatever their purpose is here to the collective. Okay, because there is a creation here, which will help them individually, potentially even be their source of income or create their future. Okay, but I feel like this is sort of where it's guiding these two people, but these two people are having to really deal with their own shadows. And I feel like there is this difficulty working together, but this requires working together in order to heal. And so it's a fine balance. And I feel like one energy here, like I said, is sort of working on their own, feeling very either angry, bitter, and very disappointed, deflated, energetically just not having it. Like even this bee looks like it's completely out of energy. Its little antennas are downwards. So maybe this little bee was very excited, to create something, to work together. And it's like this little bee's by itself. Interesting with the little bees here. And, oops, let me grab my wand. And so the little bees have to work together to create the beautiful magic here, whatever they're destined to do. But obviously, as we know, when we're angry, or resentful, or in an energy that's not workable, it doesn't really help progress. Okay, so that's for one. But I feel like there is a valid reason here to be deflated and to feel sort of I was going to say like abandoned or on their own, because I feel like there's an energy here that's really hanging on to the world that they know because of fear of being seen, being judged, doing something wrong, getting criticized, and maybe they criticize themselves. And they might also be very angry. And they're angry, frustrated themselves for one, but angry most likely at this bumblebee. Because I feel like this person feels like they need to be supported, or they should have had buy-in from this other person in order to help them through whatever this challenge is. But the truth of the matter is, this person, the person who is challenged with expressing themselves, it could be they're just challenged with communication overall, or challenged with expressing how they feel, disconnected from this. These are really deep-rooted fears that need to be resolved by this person alone. So yes, they were mirrored back by this other person, but there is nothing that anyone else can do but this person in order to confront. And the way we confront is really to confront, not avoiding, not suppressing, not skirting around, not delaying, not hanging on, but through doing. And so I feel there's a lot of fear. And I feel like this person might be have such a skewed understanding of what it means to communicate, that they've surrounded themselves with, like this owl talks about surrounding its nest with cow dung. So we're trying to attract or work with situations and people, but we're not very pleasant to be around because it's starting to smell, okay? And smell means it's not a place that anyone can stick around here comfortably in a way that allows them to support and work. And I feel like it really ties back to this person thinking that is like doable for them in an environment. It's like the dog doesn't eat where it shits. Okay, so there's definitely a need for self acceptance, and to get out of one's own shitty perspective that they have of themselves, which isn't good. So it could be a self-esteem thing. It could be just putting up with an understanding that they think that they're worthy of shit, or that their energy here is giving off nobody wants to get around to help us stick around. So it's like, why do I keep getting ditched, maybe, Or they might feel very judged by this other person here. And it's like the objective truth is that one person is so not a good energy to be around, because the suppression here of emotions is challenging and really getting in the way of there being any growth. It's really stunted and stuck. And this is all really stemmed from a big fear, a fear of change, a fear of looking at self, a fear of expressing. And this needs to break through in order for there to be a change and a release. And so we see this wife, we see this child. So this could certainly be husband and wife. Like I said, it could be divine counterparts. Okay, but I'm getting mother energy and I'm getting child. So there could be a mother wound here, a parental wound, a need for understanding self-love, an inner child, okay, because we're looking at the shadow. an inner child that doesn't feel worthy of love or never felt safe. And it's like, how does this person ever feel safe? Because I feel this person would never, never, never feel safe, no matter how many empresses and mothers were around them, until they go and they look at themselves and accept themselves and break free and express themselves. Then there's change. They have to be willing and flexible to look at their own shadow and deal with this, because it only comes from themselves. It's not going to come from another bumblebee. So there's a big, big fear here. And it's really, really driven by underlying cause of not feeling worthy of love, and so it manifested in not knowing how to show love, give love, receive love, communicate love, be supportive. And so who's going to want to be able to stick around not feeling loved, feeling rejected, feeling shut out? Not many people, not anyone. But it's not that this person doesn't love, and it's not that this person doesn't want to give love. It's that this person doesn't realize that they know how to give it. So they just think they can't, or they're sort of stuck here, not being able to express. And so back to this other person, this is very weird how this is coming out. I feel has given up. And so the shadow of this person, I feel it could certainly be taking on the fact that they failed, feeling very discouraged. You know, that the build didn't happen, that they can't build anymore, that they somehow did something wrong. So they're feeling energetically at a low, not capable of building, very deflated, and like they potentially let down this duo, or let down this other bumblebee, or let themselves down, or let down the collective. But there's a low energy here of I cannot build. And so the shadow here is, this is still a bumblebee. And the bumblebee's a bumblebee, regardless of how many bumblebees are around. It doesn't make it more of a bumblebee. And so I don't think this bumblebee recognizes that it has everything it always had, and it has everything it could ever have, regardless if this other bumblebee person isn't working with this bee. And so I don't know how down and out this bee will be. I said bee will be. And it could just be a phase. But I feel like the shadow part here could certainly be projecting that any situation that failed, or any limitation that another has, especially one that might feel very divine, is any reflection of this bumblebee. It's not true. That this bumblebee didn't do anything that is like taking away from the bumblebee-ness of this bumblebee. And so there's a need for this bumblebee to be more in higher spirits, although we can't just pretend and say, cheer up, bumblebee. But for the bumblebee to understand that creations could still be created by one bumblebee, and that resentments or anger or saying mean things don't necessarily help. Because when we're resentful or angry or carry this, the only burdens are the ones that we are carrying there with that venom. And so just to be very aware and cautious, like, how are we injecting and infusing situations with unnecessary hurtful words? You know, because there certainly is a dynamic here where there certainly is a deficiency in expression, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this bumblebee is deficient. It means this bumblebee has a shadow trigger thing going on in the subconscious that won't allow there to be true, authentic expression around emotions, specifically, potentially around love, receiving, giving. And so this bumblebee is going to have very challenging relationships, because no one is going to want to keep giving without receiving in return love, compassion, in energy, and in words, and in action, and in expression without there being blocks. And so, yes, we can energetically love, but if there's any blockage at all, it is felt and it needs to be released, or else it starts to build up and clog and make things stink and get stagnant over time. And so just like smelly fish or stinky food, broccoli in the garbage, banana peel in the washroom, after time, that smell gets so strong that no one can want to be around it or can be around it, no matter how much they want it. And so there's something starting to stink in Denmark. Spirit's hilarious. So I don't know why I'm laughing, but it smells here. Okay, it smells here, and I feel like this person, this bumblebee, doesn't need to sleep beside the smelly garbage, and this person doesn't need to take it personal. And so I feel like there's a mirroring happening in regards to the big fears with this underworld, seeing our own shadows that are really highlighted that make us feel very uncomfortable with the underworld, because we don't want to take a look at our deepest subconscious, and we don't want to feel like failures. We don't want to feel like the biggest wound here would be to let down somebody that we love and feel very disappointed and saying, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do or being how I'm supposed to be. And so there's a lot of beating self up, taking on a lot that isn't just for one bumblebee, the work of many, to fall on one. That's a shadow that this bee's having to work through, to accept itself as one bumblebee. And that's all this one bumblebee is and can be. It can't be 2, it can't be 10. And it can't create the work of 10. It can only create the work of one bumblebee. Period. End of story. And this shadow might be hard to accept, because I feel this bumblebee wants to create, and this bumblebee tries to do more than it needs to do to be appreciated or loved or seen or find value in itself. And that's not true. And this other bumblebee might feel very let down and put it all on this other bumblebee in some way, because it's easier to put it on another than to say, I'm the one. I'm the one who needs to do this. I'm the one. And even if we know that we're the one, we're not doing it, because we have a very difficult time releasing and having change and facing our fears and actually be honest that we're deserving of love, and that we have an inner child that might have not have got a lot of love or was able to express itself. And instead of getting frustrated, and instead of letting it fester, and instead of letting it contaminate situations beyond repair, this person has a choice to alleviate some of this by expressing, not suppressing. And so there's a need to understand the shadows within each other so that there could be adapting, because I fear that this person is looking too much on being abandoned or let down, that they might not be flexible enough to understand their own skin in the game, to really understand how someone could feel very rejected and shut out, and not desire sticking around that sort of smelly situation. They're forced out. It's not a choice. They're forced out, and this will allow this person to be a little more flexible, understanding their own skin in the game. And this person, I think, was bending over backwards, trying to do the work of 2, 3, 5 bumblebees for no other reason other than to prove self-worth. And I don't think it had anything to do with anything other than themselves. So they have to dig in deep their shadow. Why were they trying to build a thing in the first place? Why do they need to be more than one bumblebee? Why are they not good enough to just be one bee? Because that's all they really are. They're not more. They're whole. They're one bee, and they need to accept and approve the fact that they're one bee, and like that, and not feel deflated about that, and not feel dejected, and not feel rejected. But if that's how they feel, then they have to ask themselves why. That's the shadow. There's no need to overgive and overbend and be more than what they are. Because I feel this is why this bumblebee is completely drained and completely disappointed and completely deflated. And so can there be harmony? Absolutely. Is there a grand sort of expression that can come of these two? Absolutely. Harmony. And both need to understand their own harmonious instrument in this band duo so they could play together. But if one is playing one song and one's playing another song altogether and they're not harmonious, then it sounds like shoes in the dryer. So are they both singing to the same song, their own unique instrument, or are they sort of doing their own sort of thing here? So a lot of shadow being highlighted here, and I think it's mostly to highlight this scenario that's going on between this dynamic that I wasn't really even expecting to see at all. Okay, but just like this underworld, like there's a can of worms here, and we're having to identify what worm is mine and what's not, you know, like really identify like what is my shadow and what is my own accountability and responsibility and what belongs to the other, and not take on more and not put on someone else, but to not fear looking at our own junk, you know, because this smell, we start to get nose blind for ourselves, but eventually we will eventually smell it when it gets too bad. And by that time, everything and everyone's gone. And so there's a really strong smell here that's already happening that this person might be still nose blind to. And by the time they smell it, like I say, it might be too intense. And so they got to be aware of the smell happening already. And I feel like this bumblebee might have been really the catalyst to saying, hey, something's not good here. Address the smell, address the shit around you, address this block, address this thing. Release rather than fight and resist and fear of being seen and expressing. So this is what I have for this very interesting reading. Like I said, wasn't expecting to see this, but beautiful angels, this is your reading. I hope this helped you, and I will see you at the next one. Bye-bye. Welcome to the disclaimer. Don't get fooled by people scamming you in the comments section. If you're interested in a private reading, all my contact information is in the description box, and there you will find my website, and that is only through my website can you book private readings at this time. And for those of you guys new to the tarot, tarot does not predict your future. Tarot is not set in stone. Tarot is reflecting back to you a state of consciousness that is something you can either resonate with or not. And so it's very important that you are in tune with your intuition so that you know whether the pile you're picking, the information coming through, is reflecting back to you your own intuition, state of consciousness, your subconscious, and this will be the best way for you to know that the message is indeed meant for you. So if your intuition is not clear or it's cloudy, then you might be tapping into the wrong pile, or information might be coming through that is not dictating whatever your circumstance situation is. So it is important that you work with the divine to develop your intuition. Best way is to sit through the card layout, which I do include with most of my readings, where you can ask the divine to come up with what you'll see, feel, or hear to determine whether the pile makes sense for you. And so you can ask the divine to show you those signs, symbols, synchronicities, either throughout your dreams or throughout your day, and certainly throughout the reading, so that you can be assured that the messages you're tapping into are the right messages for you. If you are drawn to multiple piles with the pick-a-card readings, listen to your intuition. A lot of times energy is interconnected, and in this channel, a lot of times all my piles could be interconnected. So do not feel obligated to only select one or all or none. It is definitely up to you and your intuition. If you are in a pile and it is not resonating, there is no need to continue listening to that pile. if it doesn't resonate, sometimes it gives us perspective so that we know what is resonating for us. So even piles that do not resonate could provide some insight. Keep in mind that if you have strong energy in your presence, other people, situations, that could be quite heavy energetically or strong energetically, spiritually heavy, those might pull through the pile. So it might not be your energy that I'm picking up, but your situation, your circumstance, or people that you're dealing with. It's up to you to keep an open mind in regards to what it is that I'm connecting to, if it is resonating to your story. Do not take any messages that don't belong to you. There will be specific messages that come through for certain individuals, even though the pile might be your pile, but the specific message does not connect to you. Do not take those messages. Only take the ones that resonate for you. It should be the overall energy in that pile that is resonating to your story. It is the gist of that energy that should be overall the story or the energy of the situation, circumstance, or the person that I'm tapping into. If you are unprepared to listen to difficult messages, messages that offer healing, messages that might provide someone else's perspective that we're not quite ready to listen to, it might be a good time to come back when we're fully healed or prepared to listen to messages. My commitment to you is to read the cards with transparency and as much compassion as I can. It is difficult for me to provide you with any guidance in the comments section without knowing your specific situation. A lot of times the piles do come reversed and they might not match the exact description of the reading. And although I am posting the description of that reading, my intention is to always deliver that in which the description talks about. But sometimes spirit comes through with the mere reflection of either something objectively pulling through, some guidance pulling through, or something completely unrelated. And that is not up to me, and I certainly don't select what comes through. But Spirit knows when you will click on whichever video in order for you to hear the messages that are being pulled through. It might just be for one person, and that one person was needing to hear it. So if you are frustrated with that, it's early to tell in a reading whether it is resonating or not, especially if we've sat through the card layout. Again, do not feel obligated to take any messages that aren't for you. You can certainly switch your own situation, circumstance, or energy based on the reading you get. So if a reading does resonate, but you want a different outcome, then utilize the reading in order for you to make conscious choices, different decisions, guide the energy in a specific way that you want it to go. This is why we utilize the tarot and the oracle cards in order for us to be conscious of the energy and make shifts. Energy shifts very fast, and it is formless, and it is not time-bound, meaning I could be tapping into present, future, or past situations. If an energy feels like it's an old energy, it's past, you might want to go check out another pile. There could be one that's talking to your current situation, or we could be looking at a future state of consciousness. These readings might not make any sense to you at the time because it is beyond your level of comprehension. You might want to come back to these readings at a later date. That's why all these readings are timeless unless otherwise stated. And so, as I mentioned, it is up to you, depending on when you click on the reading, to know whether it is useful information to help guide you. All of my readings offer a level of healing, whether it is understanding someone else's perspective, if it is understanding our own perspective, tapping into subconscious energies, or looking at objective situations from the point of view of the creator. All information helps us to put the pieces of the puzzle together so that we can make better decisions when we're involved with difficult or challenging people or circumstances. This is the reason I do the tarot. I do not do the tarot so that we can dwell in hurts and in pain. So if we're suffering, we're allowed to feel how we feel. Pain is inevitable. We all suffer from pain, but the suffering is certainly up to us. And my mission is that we release suffering. Undue suffering does not need to persist. If we choose to suffer, it is because we're making a decision to stay in the suffering. The choice is always ours to get out of suffering. And so sometimes we don't like to hear what it is that's being communicated because it might release us or relieve us from stories, from comfort zones, from pains and clutches that we've used in the past in order for us to feel safe, in order for us to remain in our comfort zone. And as I mentioned, healing isn't always easy. So it is sometimes very difficult for us to acknowledge truths because sometimes a comforting lie is what we choose to believe in. I do not feed comforting lies. I will not read information or readings here that provide you a level of comfort and water the truth down. I don't want you to leave here feeling a false sense of security, but I do want you to leave with a sense that I justified your own intuition, your own energy and suspicion, or whatever you were wanting to confirm with the divine. I also want to make mention that I am not everybody's reader. So at times my voice is annoying, even to myself. And sometimes I deliver messages that aren't quite as concise as they can be. Spirit knows which words I will use in order to channel the information that my soul tribe, the people being drawn to the reading, need to hear. So those words are crafted by the design. I don't spend a whole bunch of time trying to analyze. I do know when it feels right, and I do know that sometimes it's a struggle to come up with a word that can define energy. Energy is not words. Energy can't fit into words. And so sometimes these readings could be a lot of repeating the same thing as I'm trying to find the right word. And if you've tried channeling, you'll notice that a lot of people who channel, they do repeat a lot of words until the right word comes through. Sometimes readings, unfortunately, don't make sense until the very end. And we might go down one path only to find that the answer was something else, or that the reading was something else completely. I don't intend this. Some days my channeling is very strong, and other days it is difficult for me to follow. And sometimes, if it is difficult for me to follow, it can make complete sense on your end, but the delivery on my end might sound a little chaotic or confused because I don't understand everyone's situation and circumstance. Keep in mind, these are general readings, and these readings touch a lot of people, a lot of viewers. If you don't connect with my style, if you don't connect with the readings, then I do suggest you go find another reader. There's many on YouTube, and it could just be the reading or the pile wasn't your fit. So you might want to try another reading from my playlist. And I do hope you guys stay, and I do hope to connect with you guys. I do read all your comments. I do try to reach out to you guys, all of you guys. And if I don't, rest assured, I do see your comments, and I send so much love to you guys. I appreciate you guys very much, and I'm so honored to do this journey with you guys. Bless you, and God bless.